Welcome to the webcast today on Bluebeam Workflows for Architects. My name is Jatin, and I am an AEC Tech Consulting Lead here at VinZero Cloud A2K. In this webinar, we'll be going through 4 example architectural focused workflows within the Bluebeam software. Just before we get started, please do keep in mind that these workflows are examples and meant to be as broad as possible so that we can provide value to all the different viewers today. If you have particular workflows you want to explore that are purely based on your practice, please contact us after the webinar and we can talk. There will be a short Q&A session at the end as well, so please feel free to jump in with some questions. Okay, before we get into the main topics, just a brief overview of what VinZero Cloud A2K is and does. We are a solutions organization that fosters innovation through delivering software and hardware solutions, consulting, training, development, and managed services. We have become a trusted advisor to our clients due to the breadth and depth of our service offering and technical expertise, our commercial agility, and understanding of customer service. A little bit about me. My name is Jatin Sharma. I have over 7 years experience in the AEC industry as a BIM manager, designer, and technical instructor. Currently, my role at VinZero is that of an AEC tech consulting lead, and my software skills, of course, include Bluebeam, AutoCAD, Revit, Autodesk Construction Cloud, Navisworks, Format, 3ds Max, and Assemble. I initially completed a Bachelor of Science before accidentally stumbling into the building industry, initially working as a draftee and then transitioning into a Revit certified professional, and from there a BIM consulting lead, and of course Bluebeam was a major part of that journey. Okay, a quick slide here about Bluebeam Revu itself for anyone watching that is new to the software and hasn't seen Bluebeam before. In a nutshell, Bluebeam Revu is a software application that allows users to mark up, take off, organize, and collaborate with PDF files. It can be classified as an efficiency and collaboration software for anyone who works with technical files. Okay, so while this webinar is focused for architects, Bluebeam touches on all different aspects within the AEC industry. It was founded in 2002. And since then exploded to around 1.6 million users around the globe. In ANZ particularly, around 90% of the top ANZ contractors use Bluebeam in one way, shape, or form. I suspect that the percentage has increased since the last time this study was conducted. Okay. Now that we've got the introductions out of the way, we can now get to the agenda and get to the meat of this webinar. So here's our agenda of what we'll be going through. As I mentioned before, we will showcase 4 workflows focusing on the architectural discipline so you can get an idea of what's possible. The 4 workflows are comparing drawings between versions and disciplines, creating a simple design review process using the status column, using spaces to track markups and easily create hyperlinks, and using the measurement tool for areas and volume. And as I said before at the beginning, there will be a Q&A session at the end to ask any questions you have around what we'll be going through. Okay. So let's start with our first workflow example. So the objective here is to compare drawings between versions and disciplines within Bluebeam Revu. Just some key takeaways from the demonstration you want to pay extra attention to. Okay, and that's using the compare feature within Bluebeam, using the overlay feature within Bluebeam, the advantage of having standardized markups, and creating a report after creating some markups and going through the workflow itself. Okay, now it's time to get into the demo portion. I'm just going to open up my Bluebeam Revu, which you can see here. Okay, so one of the things I noticed when I was talking to different clients is the way that they open files within Bluebeam Revu. It's quite a simple thing, but it was quite interesting to see. So normally, I'd have clients going into the File tab up here and clicking on the Open button and then proceeding to open the PDF, or clicking on this shortcut over here called Open and then doing the same thing. There's actually a much easier and much more robust way of opening PDFs, and particularly PDFs that you worked with before. And that's actually using something we call file access on this left-hand side. So if I open up my tab and look at file access, I can actually pin PDFs that I want to on this panel over here. And if I wanted to, I could even pin folders. I could have this point at a specific project folder if I wanted to. So whenever I open up my Bluebeam, I just simply go into this file access area and open the PDFs I want. So I've got two PDFs I want to open. One is a architectural drawing with revision 1, and the other one is revision 2. So I'm just going to open up one, and then I'm going to open up the other. And you can see how easy it is to find the files that you need using this file access area. Okay. So these are two PDFs I have. Okay, so this one is revision 1 of an architectural drawing. It's a first floor plan. And this is revision 2 of the same first floor. Again, one of the things I notice clients do is that if we were to go through a more manual method of comparing these two drawings, what they might do is they might click on this split vertical option over here. And when you click on this, it's just going to create another tab that you see here. And if they wanted to, they could kind of zoom in. Okay, and as you're zooming in into one tab over here on the left-hand side, it will automatically sync on the right-hand side as well. So they might go in and see, oh, is there something different here? Is there something different here? And they would go through like what we call an eye test, basically. Okay, and they would probably go through the entire drawing. This is quite a manual effort, and it's going to take a while. And sometimes you might not easily be able to see any particular differences between the two drawings. Okay, and so you can make your life a lot easier by utilizing either the compare or the overlay tool within Bluebeam. Okay, so I'm just going to close out of this tab here. So version 1 or revision 1, revision 2. What I can do is I can go up here to document, and in document there's a function, or in fact there's two functions called compare documents and overlay pages. Okay, we'll start with compare documents, and if I click on compare documents, and you can even click on this little pin button if you want to have it pinned in your bar across the top over here. Okay, so if I click on compare documents, Bluebeam will give me a dialog box. Okay, and what the dialog box is saying is, look, you've got document A and you've got document B, which is revision 1 and revision 2. And essentially, Bluebeam is going to read both of those documents, and it's going to tell me the difference between the two, and it's going to highlight that for me via a markup. Okay, if I go to this advanced little button over here, I can actually choose what color and fill color and opacity, width, etc., I want this cloud markup to be, and I could even, edit some additional comparison tools. I'm going to keep all this the same. Bluebeam's very good at keeping things nice and simple, so you don't have to worry about this area too much. If I wanted to change the color of the markup, I can do so over here, but I'm just going to leave it as red. That's completely fine. Go OK. So after I've checked all my settings, everything's all good. Again, like I say, Bluebeam likes to keep things nice and easy. You don't need to mess around with too many options. I'm going to go OK. So just to double check, I've got my revision 1 and I've got revision 2. And I'm going to go OK. And it's going to think about it for a bit. And now it's going to give me the differences in this document here called R2 difference. So if I take a quick look, I can see that there is a difference between this door here and the door that was created beforehand in revision 1 as opposed to revision 2. It's the same thing with this particular door. I can see there's a difference. It's the same thing over here as well. So what Bluebeam is doing is that it's not only showing us very clearly the differences, but also marking it up as well. It's giving us that cloud markup. Okay, and so from here, if I wanted to, I'm just going to exit out of this. If I wanted to, I can click on this little area over here to open up what we call our markups list. And all I need to do is click on each markup, and it's going to take me to that location. Okay, and then from here, after I've analyzed everything and I'm happy with these, changes being noted, I could click on this little summary button over here and actually create a PDF summary report. Okay, so I can create this PDF summary report. I can append and hyperlink it to this current PDF. And what this is going to do is that this is going to create a report, but it's going to create what we call a hyperlink report. So if you click on the markup in the report, it will jump to the appropriate location. So just watch this. So if I go OK, it's going to go ahead and it's going to create that report for me. Okay, and this is the report at the end. And remember when I said it was hyperlinked? If I hover over the markup, it's that hyperlink. So if I wanted to take a closer look at this particular markup, I can just click on the hyperlink and it's going to take me to that location within the drawing. Okay, and there's lots more things that we can do on this, but that's a very useful workflow that you can do in terms of comparing two different revisions. There's another way that you can do this, and that's using the overlay functionality. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of all of these markups. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of this document altogether. Again, make use of my file access and open up revision 1 again. In fact, I'm just going to move this towards over here. So I've got revision 1 and I've got revision 2. Okay, so we've done compare documents, but now we can take a look at overlay pages as well. And so the difference between the two is that compare documents essentially compares one to the other and gives us the difference. Overlay, what that means is that it's going to put one page on top of another, and it's going to give us different colors between the two and show differences in that fashion. Okay, the cool thing about overlay pages, okay, is that you can use it not only for comparison, but for also checking if you have other discipline drawings to make sure that they're aligned with yours. So that's another common thing people can do for overlay pages. So if I click on overlay pages, I get presented with this dialog box, okay? And it says revision 1 is going to be in red, revision 2 is going to be in green. Okay, and if I wanted to, I can add multiple other pages and documents to this list. So with comparison, it's directly between document A and document B. With overlay pages, you're able to add multiple other pages and disciplines as well to make sure they align, etc., etc. Okay, so I'm going to go okay. Again, just before I do, red is revision 1, green is revision 2. I'm going to go okay. It's going to think about it for a bit. And now it's going to give me the 2 pages on top of each other. So you can see a lot of things are the same, and that's with the color being blended in. But then there are some key differences that we can see over here, right? Red was revision 1, green was revision 2. So we can see the differences here. And we can see the differences here as well. And again, if I scroll down, I can see some differences here. Everything else is the same. We'll just have their colors blended in. So this is really, really useful when you're working with multiple disciplines, multiple other files, and you want to see comparisons as well as alignment as well. And from here, if I wanted to, I could leverage my tool chest, have my standardized architect review. So for example, I might use this cloud markup here. So I say that's a difference over here. That's a difference over here. That's another difference over here. and I'm able to just keep going as I want to throughout this particular page. A key thing to note while I'm doing this is you would have noticed that I just click on my little cloud markup and I can just keep placing it over and over. So just so you're clear, this is what we call the drawing mode within the Bluebeam tool chest. Okay, so there's two modes in a tool chest. One of them is called drawing mode, and one of them is called properties mode. So drawing mode means that it's an exact duplicate of a markup that you decide to add to a tool chest. And if I double click on this, it's going to change to what we call a properties mode. And what a properties mode is that it's the same markup and it retains all of the appearance properties, but the exact dimensions are some things that you can choose. So in this format here, I can choose how big I want this cloud markup, for example, to be. If I double click and turn it to drawing mode, it basically keeps everything exactly the same and I can go nice and quickly. If I want to change the size of these markups every time, then I can double click and change it to properties mode, and then I can choose how big I want it to be. Okay, so that's a little bit around comparing documents and using some standardized markups and the like. Okay, right. Jumping back into the next workflow. This one is called creating an easy design review process within Bluebeam Revu. The key takeaways to take from this demonstration that you would want to pay attention to is the using the status column, the advantage of, again, having standardized markups, and the advantage of having and creating what we call office standards within your practice. Okay, into the demonstration. If I go back into Bluebeam, I've kind of marked up quite a part of these drawings, so I might choose another set to work with. So I might choose the architectural set here. Okay, and if I click on my little thumbnails option, I know I've got a couple of pages, different pages to work with, and I'm just going to get rid of the rest for now. So taking a look at the set, before we even get started, there's one thing I don't like within the set, and that's the labeling that's happening here. I want to easily be able to know what page I'm working on. And of course, provided that you've got an appropriate title block, I know that the sheet naming is going to be over here. For example, it says floor plans here. Over here, it says elevations, and then it says powder room, etc., etc. And that's kind of what I want to see over here. So I quickly know what page I want to go to and what page I want to work on. So I might start with that and then begin the design review process. So I'm going to go up here to create page labels. In fact, I'm going to go to the front page. There we go, to the cover sheet. I'm going to click on create page labels. And then I'm going to choose page region. Okay. And then I'm going to click on select. And I'm just going to choose this area here. I want Bluebeam to read. So just to be clear, what's happening is that I'm telling Bluebeam to go ahead and read this part of the PDF and then rename all of the page labels according to what gets stated in this part of the PDF. So for example, for the preview, it's telling me it's going to be cover sheet, and it's going to replicate for all of the pages. Okay, I'm going to go okay. Again, I'm going to choose all pages. If I wanted to, I could select a custom range or a particular page if I wanted to, but I'm going to go okay. And you can see that's now changed these page labels. So I know I'm looking at the powder room. I know I'm looking at section and detail. I know I'm looking at floor plans. It just makes things nice and straightforward. Okay, so from here, we can now start to look at creating a nice design review process. Okay. So in this markups list area, again, if you want to know where that sits, it's just this little, clicking on this little blue bar over here, opens up what we call the markups list. underneath this markups list, there is our columns. Okay. And one of those columns is called the status column. This is inbuilt. It's part of your Bluebeam Revu. Okay. If you can't see it in your own Bluebeam, just go ahead over here to markups list, go over to columns, and just make sure your status is turned on. Okay. You'll see the tick to say that it's on. So this status column is actually really, really cool. And you should try to make use of it as much as you can, because there's lots of functionality that's already built inside of this column. So you're not having to create your own custom columns or start from scratch. Okay. So in the status column, there's a little button, these slider buttons that you can press. If I click on this, there's something that's called manage status. Okay. And if I click on manage status, there is something that comes out of the box, again, called review. And in this review, there are multiple different states. And if you want to, you can change the wording of this. You can add your own over here, or you can delete some if you want to, whatever the case is. For now, we're going to keep things nice and simple. So I have about 5 states. So one is accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, and none. If you click on the Modify tab, okay, after you select any one, so for example, we've selected accepted, and if I go to Modify, I can change the naming here, but there's also a color option, okay? And if I tick this color option, I can now set the default color for when someone sets a markup as accepted. So for me, I might choose, let's say, in fact, I won't go orange. Let's go with very dark red. Okay. So if I see a markup that's very, dark red, it means that this markup has been accepted. This is what I was kind of coming back to earlier on when I was talking about creating those office standards. So having some colorings that clearly defines different states within your design review process. So for me, accepted might mean this burgundy dark deep red color. I might go okay. Next, I'm going to go into rejected, and I'm going to click on modify, and I might make rejected, I might make it very dark blue just for fun. Okay. I'm going to go okay. And the last one I might do is completed. Okay. I'm going to change the color of this, and I'm going to make it perhaps light green. And I'm going to go okay. And when I'm done, when I'm all happy with everything, I'm going to go okay. So just to be clear, we've changed accepted, which you can see. We've changed rejected, and we've changed completed. So now, if I go to my tool chest, and let's say I place a markup down, or even create a new markup, if I go into the markup tool, use the cloud option, I might use that and create a markup here. I'll create another markup here, maybe another one here, another one here, another one here, and one more, maybe another one over here. So I've got all these markups here. Okay. So if this was a design review, someone else would come in and verify that these markups are correct, or giving it to a draftee to confirm that they're going to take on this part, or whether it's been completed, etc., etc. What they could do is they could click on the cloud markup. So we've selected this one here. If I double click underneath the status column, okay, I have the option to choose. And I might say, yep, this markup has been accepted, or rejected, or completed. Just watch the color of this markup when I select accepted, rejected, or completed. Okay, so first I'm going to go with accepted, and you'll see that color change. Next, I might go to another markup, this one here. I might double click on the status, and I might say, yep, this markup, actually, we've already completed it. And you'll see the color change. Okay, I could select this, and you can select a whole bunch at once. I'm just doing one at a time just to show you very slowly what this all looks like. I might say this one actually has been rejected. There's actually no need for this change to occur. And you'll see that color shift. And I could do the same to both of these markups at once. Actually, I could choose them both, double click and say, yep, they've both been accepted. Oh, excuse me, remove that. Okay. And if I wanted to, I could go through all of these markups and I could accept, reject, or go through that design review status. This gives us a couple of advantages, okay? One of them is that, again, if these colors have been standardized within your office, under this thumbnail area, I can quickly see in this area what's actually been rejected or completed, etc., or even in my page over here, I can do a quick glance and I know, for example, blue, oh yeah, there's something here that I need to take a further look at, or red means that there's another action that I need to do. And if I wanted to, I could actually, so for example, if I have this markup here, and let's say this markup has actually been rejected, that person could actually right click and hit this reply button and give a reason why it got rejected. And that would get put under the comments area for us to take a look at. So this is now creating that collaborative environment. The other advantage that we can have is that we can actually filter this by the appropriate status if we wanted to create a report. So what we could do is we could simply click on the status column, and what that does is that then filters everything, all of the markups, by their appropriate status that you can see here, right? So there's two markups that have been accepted, 2 which have been rejected, etc. And from here, I can simply click on the summary and create a PDF summary report. I could hyperlink it if I wanted to. And now I have this report where I can clearly see what markups have been accepted, what have been completed, what have been rejected, and any other information that I need to on why something has been rejected, etc. So just by utilizing this one column and having some standards around Bluebeam within your office, you're able to create this type of workflow moving forward. Okay? Perfect. Okay, next, we're going to take a look at our third workflow example. So the objective here is to use spaces to track markups and easily create hyperlinks. Okay, and again, the key takeaways to sort of absorb from this particular demonstration is using the spaces tool and using it effectively, using hyperlinks, using sorting and filtering. We'll kind of see an example of that slightly earlier on when I filtered the status column. Okay, so just more on that, and also reporting. Reporting is always a key functionality within Bluebeam. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of this document, and I'm actually just going to get rid of these markups. We don't need them anymore. And cool. And we're just going to sort everything by subject. Cool. Okay. So Spaces is a tool within Bluebeam that not a lot of organizations use, but it's something that you should use because it becomes really, really handy in a lot of different ways. Okay. And the Spaces tool is this little button over here. Okay. And it's called Status, and it kind of looks like a floor plan. Okay, it's a tool that's really underutilized, and I just want to bring some attention to it because it is really good, especially for architecture. So I'm going to take a look at this particular ground floor, and we're going to use that for our spaces. I'm just going to open up this tab here, and I'm going to click on Spaces. Right now we have no spaces, which is the reason why nothing is shown here. But we're going to start. So we're going to create some spaces. I think I want to create one in the formal living room, maybe one in the kitchen, and maybe one in the balcony. Okay, So maybe I'll start with the balcony first. It's nice and easy. I'm going to click on over here called Add Space. And I'm just going to draw. And you can see as I'm drawing, Bluebeam is snapping to the content of the PDF. Okay, that's a feature of Bluebeam. It only works for vector PDFs. Okay, so for raster PDFs, as in vector PDFs are PDFs that come from CAD software, etc., etc. So as you zoom inside of them, like here, you can see that the lines are nice and straight. A raster PDF is something that you scan or you print and scan and put back as a PDF, and that's not quite as highly defined. Okay. So I'm going to click on Add Space, and I'm going to go ahead and create the space over here. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Balcony. Okay. And it's created our space over here. If I don't like the color of this particular space, I can just right click on it, go to space properties, and change the coloring. So I might make this orange. I'll leave the opacity as it is. And let's say this is our balcony. Next, I might go down here and go to formal living room. I'm going to go click on Add Space again over here. Oh, I might need to zoom a little bit more. There we go. Type in formal living room. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm happy with that color. That's fine. And let's do one more. Let's just do one on the living room. So I'm going to click on this little space here. And I'm going to go living room. Yep, it's got the same color, so let's change that. So we'll just click on the space. We can either right click here or right click here. It doesn't really matter. Go to space properties and change the color of this. Maybe this will be purple. That's fine. Okay. Cool. So we have three spaces. We have a balcony, we have formal living room, and we have living room. Okay. And I could do more. I could go around and I could do dining room, kitchen, hall. And there's actually another way to create spaces. And I'll show you that a little bit later on because it works a lot better with measurements around area, etc., etc. But you can create spaces, and that's using dynamic fill. Again, I'll touch on that in our last workflow. So we've created our spaces. What was the point of creating all these spaces? What advantage do we get other than it, giving us a good idea of where the balcony is, where the formal living room is, etc., etc. Well, we actually have three distinct advantages, okay? Advantage number one is that if I go to my tool chest, or if I go up here into my markups and I create some markups, so I've got a markup here. Let's just use this one. In fact, I'm going to make this. Yep. There we go. I might do another one over here. I might do another one over here. So I have created three markups, one on the balcony, one on the formal living room, and one in the living room. If you look at my markups list, you'll notice that there's a column here called space, and it's actually recording where these markups are going and if they are part of a space that we've defined. So the advantage of that, so the advantage number one of that is that we can then filter by the markups that we want to see that may be in a particular space. So if I do one more markup, just to show you what this all looks like. One more markup there. If I go to the space and I click on it, I'm able to see what are the markups that are being put in the balcony, what are the markups that are being put in the formal living room, and what are the markups that are being put in the living room. If I wanted to as well. So that's one way I can sort this. The other way I'm also able to sort it is by going into filter list and actually filtering the space area to only say, I only want to look at markups that are in the formal living room. If I do that, all the other markups gray out. So I'm just focused on these for now. I might say, actually, I only want to look at the markups that are in the living room. And only this will pop up. And I can choose multiple if I want to. You kind of just saw that. Like I want to look at markups that are both in the formal living room and living room. They will both pop up and everything else will gray out. Okay, so that's the first advantage. Okay. The next advantage of creating these spaces is hyperlinks. So if I am going through this drawing, and let's say I end up in over here into the section area, by having the spaces already recorded, I can actually easily create a hyperlink between the balcony view in section to the balcony view that is in floor plans or elevations or whatever I choose. And the way I can do that is that if I just hover over a balcony, there's a little hyperlinks icon, very small. This is the hyperlink icon. And all I need to do is simply click on this, click and hold on the area I want to create a hyperlink, so balcony, and I'm done. So now, if I hover over balcony, you can see I've created a hyperlink, and I simply just click on balcony, and it's going to take me to the floor plan view for balcony. And it's already over here, so I'm not having to press too many times. It's literally just one click. But for formal living room, I just hover over, click on this hyperlink, click and hold, and I'm done. And I could do this for living room as well. Hyperlink, click and hold, living room. So now, if someone else is working on these drawings with me, that's a massive thing, because now if they wanted to reference back what this living room looked like from a floor plan perspective, all they need to do is click on this and it goes straight to the living room, which is really, really cool. The third advantage that you have to creating these spaces is that I'm just going to choose the balcony. I'm just going to get rid of this markup so you can clearly see. If we look at this balcony that we created a space for, if I right-click on the balcony, I can actually create an area measurement straight from the space. Okay, before I create an area measurement, I do need to set the scale, and I'll show you how to do that in the next workflow, which is around creating measurements. I know I haven't set a scale because over here it's a scale that hasn't been set. Now, again, I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but I'm able to, if I wanted to, create an area measurement. I could also take a snapshot of this whole balcony and I could copy it and move it across somewhere else. So just to show you, I could just take a snapshot of this, and perhaps I want to see what it looks like in this courtyard area just for the sake of it for now. And I could just move it here. I could kind of rotate it the other way around if I wanted to and see what that looked like. And so if you were, more around conceptual design phase, you could just start messing around with the floor plan to see what spatial area would fit. And it's all recorded in here. So the next person that's using this PDF within your practice would have all this information as well. So this is what makes it a really powerful tool. And it just requires the initial setup around creating spaces, which doesn't take too long. And again, I'm just about to show you an easier way to create spaces rather than actually clicking on this add space and choosing that particular area. Okay, so that's a little bit around spaces. Sorting and filtering, which is what we did here in the markups list. And again, if we wanted to, we could even create a report from it. So again, just to recap, I could sort this by that particular space. I can filter it to saying all I want to see is perhaps the living room or the formal living room. And if I wanted to, I could create that PDF summary. I can append if I want to and go okay, and it's going to create. You see how in my report, it only shows what I'm seeing here? That's the power of sorting and filtering. And then I've made it hyperlink, so if I wanted to take a further look, I can just click on the markup and it's going to take me there. Okay, so this is how different parts of Bluebeam come together to give you a nice workflow. And this is more around spaces, okay? Okay, our last workflow example for the day. The objective here is to use the measurement tool for areas and volume. And the key takeaways here is how to set the scale within your PDF so that you can actually begin measuring, the role that standardized markups plays. You could, how to use the area tool, how to use the volume tool, and how to also sketch to scale. That's a cool functionality that you can utilize as well if you wanted to create more accurate markups, particularly around objects, etc., etc. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of my filter and get rid of everything here. Okay, I can keep spaces as they are, or I can delete them. That's completely fine. But for now, I'm just going to leave things as they are. Okay, so we might choose this, our ground floor, first floor, since we've been working on it. That's fine. Okay, so using measurements within Bluebeam. The first thing that you have to do before you create any measurements is to set the scale. Okay, and there's a couple of different ways to set the scale. One of the easiest ways is to just let Bluebeam prompt you. So for example, if I go up to tools and I go up to measure, and let's say I want to use the area measurement tool, and let's say I want to have the area of this laundry room. Okay, I can go ahead and I can click and I can create this area, but then it says apply scale to pages. So Bluebeam will prompt you. It's not like it's just going to give you an error. It will try to help you and steer you towards the right direction. In terms of knowing the scale, if you know the scale of your drawings, that's great. You can just use the preset and you can choose the appropriate scale. So I know this is 100, and the precision, I can just make one around to just one nearest whole number. That's completely fine. If I wanted to, I could apply the same scale to all pages, just the current one, or a custom range of pages. So I'm not having to do this one page at a time. There is actually also another way you can actually create a scale for different parts of the same PDF. And if you do want to know more information about that, just get in touch with us. Slightly more advanced, but happy to walk you through the process. So I'm going to apply the scale to this particular floor plan. And after I applied it, it's going to create the area measurement for me. So again, the way I did that was to go up here to tools, go up here to measure. You can set the scale if you haven't already done so, but now we've set the scale because we can see it here. It says bar 100. We can just click on area and we're able to just create the area like so. And I could go ahead and I could do the same thing. I could do it for this living room. If I wanted to, I could do it for this living room. Okay, and that's fairly straightforward. Now, if I want to, I can go up here to the properties, okay, and I could change what this area markup looks like. So let's say I want to give it a fill color. Let's say that I want to make it dark green. Let's say I want the fill opacity to be like 50%. Let's say that I'm happy with the line width, I'm happy with the font, etc., etc. I'm happy with that. But then if I go and I wanted to create another area, if I go up to tools and I go to measure and I go area, and I want this PDR room area, I have to actually do it all over again, the appearance. Okay, one of the ways you can avoid that is that you can actually just click on this area markup that you've created, and this works for any markup that you want. You can right click and you can go add to tool chest. Go to architect review if you have an architect review, or have, add it to whatever tool chest you want. I'm going to add it to Architect Revu. And now this area measurement tool that is being configured is now available for me as part of my tool chest. So what you really want to do is create standardized custom markups that are appropriate for your office and have them here so that at any point users can leverage them without having to go into tools, go into measure, and go into area. It's the same thing with markups, not having to go through this process over and over again. Okay. I could do another one here. Perhaps I could do one for the on-suit. I can just click on this tool that I've created, and I'm able to just create that area measurement. And it's going to give me the exact properties that I've already selected. Okay. So if I go up to tools and I go to measure, you'll see that there's also a volume option. Okay. But I'm not actually going to click on the volume option. There's actually an easier way to provide volume information to the same markup as your area. Okay. So just think of these steps over in your head, right? You've got your area measurement markup. Go up here to the measurement button over here. And even if I wanted to create a volume, I actually can't. And the reason why I can't is because if you notice in the area measurement properties, there is no depth information that Bluebeam has to be able to give you measurement around volume. So we can change that. I might say, look, the depth of this is going to be 1.5, let's say. Once I give this a depth, what I can do is I can go all the way down here into an icon that says show caption. And by default, because it's an area measurement tool, it only shows the label and area. But there's actually an option for volume as well. And if I tick volume, it's going to automatically give me the volume information as well. And again, I could save this as part of my custom markup so that all information gets brought in if I wanted to, all within one markup. Okay, so yes, you can go up here to tools, you can go to measure, and you can use the volume, or simply you can use the same markup and provide both pieces of information all within one markup. Okay, and again, if you wanted to, you could connect this with a particular custom column to then do things like, what would be the approximate cost of flooring for this particular area or carpet for this particular area. If you want to know more information about that and how to kind of transition to that next level of workflow, just get in touch with us and we'll walk you through the steps. Okay, so that's a little bit around how to use the area and volume tool and the advantage of having these standardized markups. The last thing I want to show you before we head into questions is the sketch to scale tool. Okay, so a lot of people go up here to markup and they'll go into markup and they'll create rectangles or squares, ellipses or circles or polygons, etc., etc. But what you can also do, if you wanted to, if you were going to be doing markups that are actual objects and you wanted them to be accurately represented within your drawing, you can actually use sketch to scale. Okay, and so let me give you an example. If I select rectangle sketch to scale, you'll see that when I start here, it's actually, if you used AutoCAD before, this will be pretty familiar for you. I can actually give it measurements. So I can say the width of it is going to be 1000 millimeters, and I can hit tab and I can say height is going to be 1000 millimeters, and I'm going to keep rotation the same. And now I've created the square that is an accurate representation within this drawing based on the scale information, etc., etc. If I go to tools and I go to measure and I go to length and I check the length of this, you'll see that the length is 1000 millimeters. And it's the same thing over here. This is 1000 millimeters as well. So you can actually create objects that are the appropriate measurements, hence the name sketch to scale, within your Bluebeam. So this is a great way to create objects. Please bear in mind, there are some organizations where they've taken a look at this functionality and said, great, is this a alternative to like CAD software, like something like AutoCAD? It's not. It's meant to be a complementary tool to other design software. It's not meant to be, you're not meant to be able to do all of the drafting work just within Bluebeam. Okay, so yes, while it exhibits some behavior that is the same as design software, it's not a replacement. It's a complementary tool. Okay, great. After the demonstration, now we'll get into some questions. So yeah, feel free now to just jump ahead, write down questions in the Q&A section, and I'll do my best to get them answered. Hey, Wilson, on how to measure areas for irregular shapes. Yep, that's completely fine. All you need to do is just use the point and click option rather than the click and hold option. This is more of a training related question. So if you can jot down your email address, I can get back in touch with you and show you a quick video on how to measure area for irregular shapes. That's just the way that you're using your mouse. That's all. Hey, Darren, that's a great question. So your question was, is there a way of scaling markups copied between drawings? If you copy markups from a 1:50 scale drawing to a 1:100 scale drawing, is there a quick way of scaling the markups by 50%? Yes, there is. And the way that you do that is through using the option called set scale within your tool chest. So the idea is that the way that the process would work is that you would create the markup within, let's say, a drawing that's, like you're saying, is 1:50, and you place it in your tool chest. If you go in and click on set scale, what Bluebeam will do is that it because it knows the scale of the tool that you created in your tool chest and the scale of in the drawing, it will actually recalibrate that for you. Okay. I believe we've actually done a webinar showing that as well. I'll try and dig up, but if you do want to see that live, just get in touch with me and I can show that in action. But essentially it's using the set scale option within Bluebeam Revu. Okay. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so to anyone else that wants to ask additional questions, sorry, we have run out of time, just send an email here to info@cloud2k.com and we'll get in touch with you. Darren and Wilson, please jot down your email address or send an email here if you want to see the live example of your question being answered and we can kind of get in touch with you. Just to recap for your question, Darren, around the scaling, it's just using the set scale option within the tool chest. And for you, Wilson, it's just how you go about using the tool in and of itself using your clicks.